Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. It is Tuesday morning. We are doing the show live on Twitch as we do. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling like some kind of damn genie or something with a bunch of premonitions. The man was on fire last weekend with my predictions. I put it on Twitter. I called the Green Bay game perfectly, called the Browns game perfectly, predicted Baker Mayfield wouldn't finish the game, predicted that the Tampa Bay defense would have to dominate in order for them to win. I mean, I was everywhere. Directionally, I think we are locked and loaded in the NFL. I think right now we see the things. We see what's happening. And this happens every year. 5-6 games into the season, teams start to show who they really are. You start to figure out how teams are playing, what they want to do, and you can directionally kind of be right on things like that. Now, that doesn't always work out, obviously. Just because you're directionally correct doesn't mean really anything. It just gives you a good head start. So I think I'm feeling pretty good about how we're seeing the NFL. Let's go first into the power rankings, the updated power rankings. So last week, we had the Seahawks at 1, Green Bay at 2, KC at 3, Baltimore at 4, Steelers at 5, Tennessee at 6, Rams at 7, Buffalo at 8, New Orleans at 9, and New England at 10. Now, what has happened since then? KC beat the Bills pretty good. The Rams lost pretty severely to the Niners. Tennessee was dominant again. Pittsburgh dominant again. Baltimore squeaked by Philadelphia. Green Bay was on a bye. Seattle was on a bye. Kansas City, like I said, slopped around Buffalo, and the Saints were on a bye. So let's go ahead and remove New England. New England gets bounced. I think the Rams are going to get bounced. Buffalo is going to get dropped. Say Buffalo's at 10. Tennessee, like this top part here. Oh, no, Green Bay lost too. Green Bay was not on a bye. I said they were on a bye. Not correct. Green Bay got slapped up by Tampa Bay. So Green Bay is going to drop. So let's take a look here. So which teams could get thrown in the mix? Miami, no. Cleveland, no. They got slapped up. Jacksonville, no. Detroit, no. Minnesota, no. Tampa could get thrown in here. Frisco, no. New England, we just took them off. Atlanta, no. Bears could get thrown in here. Bengals, no. Cowboys, no. Texans, no. Colts, no. Chargers, Rams, Giants, Eagles, Broncos, Panthers, Raiders, Skins, Cardinals, Jets. So I think this is kind of the makeup, right? I think we have to put the Bears on here. I mean, it's just at this point now, we don't have a choice. The Bears are 5-1. They're doing what they're doing. They're doing it. You know what I mean? They're doing it. So we don't really have a choice. Tennessee's undefeated. So just to go through these teams again, teams that we have in the top 10. Ravens 5-1, Steelers undefeated, Bears 5-1, Packers are 4-1, Bucks are 4-2, Rams are 4-2, Chiefs are 5-1, Bills are 4-2, and then some other teams are on a bye. The bye week teams were the Raiders, Saints, Chargers, and Seahawks. So let's go back and look. Okay, so Seahawks, it's hard. I'm going to leave them at 1 since they didn't play. I'm going to move the Chiefs back up to 2. I'm going to start jumping I'm going to jump the Ravens. I'm going to put the Steelers at 3. I'm going to put Tennessee at 4. I'm going to put Baltimore at 5. Green Bay at 6. I'm going to put the Saints at 8. The Bills at 7. The Bucks at 9. And the Bears at 10. So this is going to be my new power rankings. This is going to be the new look power rankings right here, ladies and gentlemen. And let me try and explain why. So I mean, Kansas City, in my opinion, are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. If I was betting on a team, I'd bet on them to win the Super Bowl. The Seahawks, I think, are playing really well right now. The Chiefs, we saw them stumble a little bit against the Raiders. So that's why they dropped. I'm not going to move Seattle until they prove that they should be moved. So KC moves up to 2. The Steelers, we've been really high on Pittsburgh, and man, they have been really impressive. I mean, they are dominating teams, just flat out embarrassing them. And it's hard to deny what Pittsburgh's doing. Before we said Pittsburgh could be a sleeper for an AFC Championship team. At this point, I don't know who else is looking as good as Pittsburgh is. Their front seven is nasty. And in the NFL, with passing the way it is, you want to be able to get after the quarterback. So I love what Pittsburgh's doing right now. They are They're impressing me so much. Tennessee, same thing. Tennessee, so impressive. Mike Vrabel is proving to be one of the best coaches in the NFL. And we're going to have a long conversation about coaching as we break down some of these games. Coaching is at such an important level right now in the NFL. I mean, you can see like Mike Vrabel had this situation in his game where he took a 12-man on the field penalty on purpose to stop the clock and to get the Texans a first down so that he wouldn't have to use a timeout. So he got a new set of downs with no time running, and he ended up winning with 4 seconds left, or going ahead with 4 seconds left. He saved like 45 seconds with that. And then you have some coaches like Mike McCarthy who are kicking 58-yard field goals down 28-3. So the gap in coaching is unbelievable. And Tennessee has Tannehill, who's playing an elite level. Tannehill is playing. I'm not saying Tannehill is elite, but he's playing elite. You've got Derrick Henry, again, elite level player. I mean, what a team Tennessee's proven to be. Baltimore is very similar to Buffalo to me. They just have a better defense. It's just Lamar Jackson or bust. Green Bay, I think Green Bay was found out this week. I think we know what they are. They're an above-average team, but they're not an undefeated team. They're not a 13-3 team. They're not a 14-2 team. They're a playoff team. They're a good team, but they're not what everyone thought Green Bay was. Green Bay they are good, but they are not special, I guess is a way to say it. Buffalo, same thing. I think Buffalo got found out. Buffalo is a good team, but they're not special. Buffalo is a playoff team, but they are not a Super Bowl team, in my opinion, because Josh Allen just is not there yet, and the defense is downright bad. The defense is, not only are they not good when they were supposed to be elite, but they're not even average. Saints, bye week, so they're chilling, but they get moved up because the Buccaneers are in there, who they beat handedly, and the Bears are in there, who I think are the worst of the lot. But Bucks, I think the Bucks are good. I don't think the Bucks are a Super Bowl team. The Bucks have a real defense. I'll tell you that. The Buccaneers' defense might be the best defense in the league. Their defense is real, and the offense is. If the offense clicks, if the offense is doing things, then they're going to be tough to beat. But their offense can be stagnant for sure. And then the Bears, look, man, you're 5-1 at this point. If they keep going, I don't know if I'll ever be like, yeah, the Bears are the third best team in the NFL, but it's hard to deny they're not one of the best 10 teams when they just keep beating everybody. So Nick Foles, maybe he's got some magic, who knows? But this is the new top 10: Seahawks, Chiefs, Steelers, Titans, Ravens, Packers, Bills, Saints, Bucks, and Bears. Let's go to the recap. First game, Texans-Titans. Great game here. These are the games, I'm telling y'all, these are the games that the Titans tied it. I don't know how this worked out. I said they won with 4 seconds left, but they tied it or something and then went to overtime. But these are the games that the Titans win because of their coaching. That's bottom line. Mike Vrabel won this game. I mean, obviously, Tannehill was really good. Let's look at the box score here. Tannehill was 30 or 41 for 364 yards, 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, this team, this is one of those things where the Texans were in a position to win. Texans did everything they could do to win. Deshaun Watson, 28 of 37 for 335, 4 touchdowns, no picks. But Mike Vrabel was the difference. Coaching is a really big deal right now, and Tennessee's proving that. Tennessee, if Tannehill and Derrick Henry play at this level, Tennessee could be a legit Super Bowl team, which is kind of shocking. But and then Texans, you know, they're on the right track. You feel bad for them losing games like this because they're playing good, but it's good that they're playing better ever since getting rid of Bill O'Brien. If you're a Texans fan, you're happy. But Titans keep rolling, man. Next up, Bengals Colts. So this was a tough one. So the Bengals were up. The Bengals were up like 21-0. I think that's what it was. I think they're up 21. I think they're up 21-0, somewhere in there. Yeah, 21-0. So they're up 21-0 and let Indianapolis come back and win 31-27. We have said this before with Cincy. Joe Burrow is good, but I don't trust the coaches to I do not trust the coaches in the franchise to build what they have to build to make him successful. Losing games like this, just like with Tennessee, when you drop games like this, when you're up 21-0, that's usually a coaching problem. That's usually a coaching issue. And I think that might be what we saw here. That might be one of those deals where just the better coach team won this game. So Cincinnati is starting to now drift away from, wow, Cincinnati's kind of surprising people, to, okay, now they're underperforming. Now they're losing games they should win. And that's more of an organizational problem and more of a structural problem. Let's talk about Indy. Indy is probably the team that could benefit the most from a trade at the deadline for a quarterback. They're not going to. So I think Indianapolis is kind of stuck here. But Indy is stuck with Phillip Rivers. And I think Phillip Rivers, even though they won this game and he put up some numbers, I think their ceiling is so low because of Phillip Rivers, which is really unfortunate because they have the roster to really make an impact. But with Phillip, I don't think that they can do much. So this is one of those teams where they're probably going to make the playoffs and probably get bounced in the first round, and that's really about it. So they paid Phillip Rivers. We're reading chat now. Where is Jacoby Brissett? Look, you pay Phillip Rivers, you're going to play him. That's it, man. That's how the NFL works. You pay a player, you get an asset, and you're going to see time. So Phillip Rivers will not get benched. I'll tell you that much. He won't get benched. So, but yeah, with Cincy, that's going to be the story. The story is not going to be wins and losses. The story is going to be developing Joe Burrow, developing this franchise, learning to win, all of that. And I'm more worried about the evolution of their coaching staff versus the evolution of Joe Burrow at this point. Honestly, that's kind of where I'm at with Cincinnati. Next up, Falcons, Vikings. Falcons blow out the Vikings 40-23. Kirk Cousins is really, really bad. Really bad. Minnesota is not good. Minnesota's rebuilding. We've said that before. They lost a lot. I mean, they lost 5-6 defensive players. They lost Stephon Diggs. Dalvin Cook wasn't in this game. But this is one of those teams too where I think now the window is closed on Kirk Cousins. Whatever Kirk Cousins had, whatever Kirk Cousins was doing, it ain't working. It ain't there anymore. It's sad what he's doing. I mean, he's now at this point a detriment to Minnesota, kind of the same way Phillip Rivers is in Indy. Matt Ryan, really good game here, 30 of 40, 371, 4 touchdowns. Todd Gurley was terrible. No one did anything else. It was pretty much just Matt Ryan. But when you're up 30-7, like they were at one point, you don't have to worry about too much. But yeah, it's tough to be a Vikings fan right now. I mean, the Vikings are 1-5. 1-5. This is at home too. This is a home beating, a home spanking. 0-3 at home. Vikings 0-3 at home. 1-5. Cousins just not good. No real way around that one. Kirk Cousins is just not it. He's just not who they need. And the Vikings will not succeed as long as Kirk Cousins is there. Bottom line. Falcons is an important win, no, but it is a good little bounce back from the Dan Quinn firing. So that it is there. But I still think the Falcons, they probably have the talent to compete like on a week-to-week basis. But as far as making the playoffs, as far as moving forward, as far as winning Super Bowls, as far as that kind of stuff, I think their time is over until they start moving some of these pieces around. If I was them, I would still look to offload Todd Gurley somehow, offload Julio Jones, and just kind of start to move towards that next era. Next game, really surprising game right here. Broncos 18, Patriots 12. If you like field goals and kickers, and this is the game for you. There was let's see, 2, 4, 6. What was there? Was this all field goals? Is that how this went? Was it all field goals? Might have been, actually. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 field goals in this game. This was a weird one. This was a really weird one. I thought New England would kind of dominate Drew Lock. I mean, Drew Lock wasn't good. He was 10-24 for 189 yards, 2 interceptions. So it's not like he was incredible. This was just two inept teams doing inept things in this game. Like, generally, I think New England's good, and New England obviously is well coached, and Cam Newton's good, but something wasn't working this game. I don't know what the hell it was. I didn't watch this game, but just looking at these numbers, good Lord, this is gross. But good. I mean, good on Denver. This is a really tough one. This is a really tough game to go on the road in New England like this and pull out a game where you're not playing well. Usually if Denver wins a game like this, you expect this because of turnovers. You expect this because of like special teams touchdowns and stuff like that. But a grinding game like this, I mean, geez. New England had 4 fumbles. They only lost 1. They had 4 fumbles. They had 2 interceptions. Denver wasn't much better. They had 2 interceptions and a fumble, but they didn't lose a fumble. Just a gross game. Gross game. This happens, man. This happens, especially right now. New England was one of those darling teams where, early in the season we were like, man, New England's looking good. New England can threaten. New England can play with anybody. And now maybe it's catching up to them. The whole COVID thing and taking so much time off and the broken up schedule and all of that. Maybe at this point it's starting to get to New England because now they're dropped to 2-3, and that's tough. They need to be better to. They have to be better to compete with Buffalo in their division, and then to try and sneak one of those wild card spots. Next game. Let's see here. I'm in a black hole. I can't get out of Denver, New England. Next one. Oh, jeez. Washington and the Giants. The Giants win 20-19. Big oof. Big oof here. This is a game you want to lose, honestly. Like, this is a game, if you're either one of these teams, you're begging to lose because you're begging for a higher draft pick. Kyle Allen threw it 42 times. That is not what Washington wants to do. Washington is not a team that wants to go out there and sling it 42 times. So I'm not sure why this was the plan. They're usually a grinded out kind of defense, run first team. So I'm not sure what the hell happened here, but they let it rip. On the flip side, these stats are crazy, man. Like, Daniel Jones was 12 of 19 for 112 yards with a touchdown and interception, and he ran the ball 7 times for 74 yards. Devontae Freeman ran the ball 18 times for 61 yards, and New York somehow won this game. Like, you're looking at this and it's like, okay, hold on. So Kyle Allen threw it 42 times. Daniel Jones threw it 19 times. Daniel Jones ran it 7 times. Devontae Freeman ran it 18 times, or a 3.4 yard average. What the hell happened here? It had to be. Yeah, so it was defensive touchdowns. There was 2. Is that what this was? There was 2 defensive touchdowns for the Giants. That must be what it was. Yeah, it looks like there was 2 defensive touchdowns. So that explains the ineptitude on offense, but the win. So, yeah, 2 really bad teams here, obviously. These teams are going absolutely nowhere fast. These teams want to lose. These teams want to get a higher draft pick. So, congratulations to the Washington Redskins. Sorry for your bad luck to the New York Giants, but maybe better next time. Next up, Ravens-Eagles. This game got close at the end because the Eagles scored 22 points in the 4th to almost force overtime. They missed a 2-point conversion here. 2-point conversion play was really bad. 2-point conversion play, Wentz. There was like a read option, and Wentz got absolutely obliterated. I'll say this about the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win this division, even though they're 1-4-1, 0-2-1 at home, because they're so injured. They are so injured. They're seriously missing like 9 starters. So if they get if they're already competing with these teams, this hurt. Once they get a little bit healthy, then I think Philadelphia is going to run away with this division. And honestly, I think Philadelphia could be a problem in the playoffs. I think when you're looking at a team like Philadelphia who, they have talent, they're just so hurt. Once they get healthy, the division's so bad, they only have to win like 7 or 8 games from now on to win the division, and then they're good to go. So they just gotta maintain, beat up inside the division. I think they play the Giants this Thursday. That's a must-win game for Philly. That is a back against the wall game for Philadelphia. Lamar Jackson here, 16 to 27, 186 yards, 1 touchdown in the air, and then on the ground, 9 carries for 108 yards and a touchdown. So really good on the ground, but that's about it. Baltimore, they're 5-1, but Baltimore is not doing what they did last year. They are Lamar Jackson, very heavy. He has to be good, and if he's not good, tough for this team to be as dominant as they were last year, as dangerous as they were last year. And I think people are just catching up to what Baltimore's doing. But this is more of a story about Philadelphia to me, that the fact that they can even remain in these games with their plethora of injuries. So I'm interested to see what Philly looks like after the injuries. They're busted up, man. They're real busted up. This is a team, if Philly went and got someone like Julio Jones, it'd be interesting to see what a few more pieces would do for this team. But they're my pick to win the NFC East. Not that that says much. Next up, Browns Steelers. So this game, we called this like 3 days ago. This wasn't even close. The Browns, this is a story of the Browns are who we thought they were. Baker Mayfield was pretty bad. Baker Mayfield was really, really bad. He was getting pressured all day, and he was just bad all day. He was making terrible interceptions. Here's the deal with Baker Mayfield. So there's certain things that quarterbacks do that if they cannot do them, it's very apparent. Baker Mayfield, what he cannot do is read a defense, go through his progressions, and handle pressure. A lot of teams in the NFL are going to force you to read defense, go through your progression, and handle pressure. So if you can't do those very simple things, and it's not like he doesn't do them all the time. It's not like he can do them sometimes. It's not he cannot do them. It is not in his repertoire to go through his progression, find the receiver, and make the throw. He is, I say it every week, he's good for an interception because he will just throw it into a linebacker. He will just throw it into a safety. He'll just roll out. People compare him to Brett Favre all the time, which I don't get that comparison at all. It's hard to compare someone who's not good to someone who won three MVPs. But Baker is good for throwing off his back foot, rolling out, getting pressure, and tossing it into the middle of the field. He's good for really bad interceptions. And you just can't win like that. You just cannot win like that. And they're 4-2. They're 4-2 despite Baker Mayfield. And Baker got benched or hurt or whatever this game for Case Keenum. This is one of those teams where I think Stefanski is the right move. I think, he's fixing some things as far as coaching, but this team will never be competitive as long as Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback. And you're going to hear me say that. You are going to hear me say that a lot with a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams where it's like, okay, well, this is it. I can go through. Let's go through them right now. These are teams that I think cannot and will never progress as long as blank is their starting quarterback. Colts, Falcons, Vikings, Broncos, Washington, Giants, Browns, Jaguars, Jets, Rams, Niners, Cowboys, I guess. But like that, that's it, And these are teams that just are stunted. Their growth is stunted. And the Browns, that's another thing too. Reading chat here. Coaches finally know to change the culture of that offense. Is ground and pound, run, O-line, physical pass rush. That's the Browns. Not a number one pick quarterback slinging it. Here's the deal, though. And this is tough in the NFL, is that if that is your thing, right? If your thing is ground and pound, physical, pass rush, defense, whatever, the only way that's going to work is if you have all that, but you also have an elite level game managing quarterback. Because if you get behind with those offenses, with the way that the NFL is nowadays, you're cooked. If you get behind the Chiefs, if you get behind the Seahawks, and you're trying to ground and pound your way back, that ain't it. You know what I mean? That way of winning is not conducive anymore to the NFL. That's a good way to manage your risk, but it's not a good way to win as a franchise. And the Browns, here's what the Browns are going to do. The Browns are a team that thinks they're really good and thinks they're really talented and loves watching Drake music videos and acting like they're superstars. But whenever they have to actually play football, they're going to lose. They're like the biggest paper champion of all time. If the Browns play the Jaguars, the Browns are going to look sweet. If the Browns play the Redskins, they're going to be slinging all over the damn place and they're going to look sweet. If they go play the Ravens, if they go play the Bucks, if they go play the Chiefs, they're going to get their ass kicked. They are not interested in playing football, in my opinion. Now the Steelers is a team interested in playing football. This is a team, man. Is there a team you'd rather play less than right now than the Pittsburgh Steelers? This is a team that knows what they are doing. I mean, you talk about like, what are they going to do? They are going to get after the quarterback. They are going to be all over you. They're going to be stuffing the run. They're going to be front seven, dominating you. And then they're also going to be super methodical on offense. They have an elite quarterback as far as game managing and all that stuff. They have good enough running back. They have good enough wide receivers. Their offense plods along, gets the job done, doesn't make mistakes, and their defense forces you into making mistakes. You know, that's who Pittsburgh is. They are a B- to B offense and an A+ defense. And that's what you want. That's what you need. Like Pittsburgh is the better version of Cleveland. They're the dominant defense, the front seven who's out of control, and they have the offense that doesn't make the mistakes. You know, this is Pittsburgh right now, so good. What's their schedule look like? Let's see. They play the Titans next. What a game. What a schedule. They go to Tennessee and to Baltimore in the next 2 games. That is absolutely brutal. Gee, so you want to talk about if Pittsburgh is 7-0 after this? My God, if they're 6-1 after this, they're incredible because then they go to Dallas against the Bengals at Jacksonville. I mean this team, what a team, what a team. I love me some Pittsburgh right now. Next up, Bears Panthers. Bears 23, Panthers 16. Good win for the Bears on the road here. Look, the Bears are better with Foles, but don't get it twisted that Foles is doing the same stuff he did in Philadelphia. I mean, he was 23 of 39 for 198 yards and 1 touchdown, 1 pick. That's terrible. That's awful. That ain't going to cut it. 5.1 average, that's not going to work. David Montgomery, 19 carries for 58 yards with a 3.1 average. That's really bad, too. You know, the difference is Teddy Bridgewater threw 2 interceptions, and they lost a fumble. So they lost the turnover battle. They were -2 in the turnover battle, and that's usually about it. But look, Chicago's getting it done. Chicago's getting it done. Do I think Chicago's good? No. I don't think Chicago's good. I think when you look at these numbers, it's pretty obvious that they're not. Here's a good way to figure out like the problem, right? So let's see. So Carolina had more first downs, more total yards, more yards per play, and lost the game because of the turnover battle. They lost, so it's they lost. They were -2. This is like what we call in the business. This isn't a false win because of the turnover battles, but you make a note about this. Whenever you're handicapping games moving forward, you make a note that Chicago got a win, but they lost first downs, lost total yards, lost yards per play, still got a win. That's a really big deal. I'm tell you all that right now. That's a really big deal. This is pretty close to a false win. Now the turnovers are a real thing, but turnovers are generally random, so you can't be like, oh, well, they're forcing turnovers. That's a false thing. That doesn't happen. So this is an ugly 5-1. This is a real ugly 5-1. Looking at these stats right here, I think that proves that. So that's what I mean. You know, the Bears. It does say something about a team though that they can squeak these wins. I mean, it does say something about a team that's 5-1 when they could easily be 2-4. You know, so. But that is something you have to remember. That what's the difference between this team? What is the difference between the Bears being 2-4 and 5-1? a 0.6% comeback against the Lions, a 0.4% comeback against the Falcons. This game we just saw here where they lost the yards, lost the first downs, lost all that stuff, but still won. So they are right now statistically defying everything. All right, let's keep going. Don't be afraid, chat, to get involved. We will take time to read chat if y'all have questions, statements, anything like that. Does that article say why the Jets should keep Adam Gase? I don't think the Jets care. I think that's why they were keeping Adam Gase. I don't think they care at all. I think they're openly tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Next up, Lions, Jags. Lions, big win here, 34-16 on the road. The Jaguars are a mess. This game right here, look, the Jags are bad. Jags are real bad. Jags are going to be bad as long as this is their core. As long as their core is Gardner Minshew and the rest of this, they're going to be bad. The Lions are better than they seem to be. The Lions are just like I said with the Bears. The Lions could easily be 4-2. The Lions could easily be better than they're showing. That Bears game they should have won. Saints game they're up 17-0 or something and lose. So this is a team that's probably better than their record, whereas like we just saw, Chicago's probably worse than their record. So not surprising at all the Detroit win did this. Problem with Detroit is that right now they have Green Bay and Chicago in their division, so they're kind of already sunk. But for Patricia, he's coaching for his job every single week. I've said it before with the quarterbacks. When a quarterback can't do anything, right? When a quarterback can't do anything, or when a quarterback shows he can't do certain things, he'll never do those things. Like if a quarterback cannot handle pressure, if he cannot go through his progressions, if he cannot read defenses in his second and third year, he's probably never going to be able to do those things. Patricia has proven that he does not understand fundamentally some aspects of the game. He's proven that. So I don't think Patricia, he's been coaching long enough, I don't think he's just going to all of a sudden learn those things. If it was me, and you'll hear me say this about Mike McCarthy, I would have already fired Patricia. I'd already be looking for someone else because I know he can't do what you have to do to win in the NFL. The difference between the Matt Patricias and the Mike Vrabels is night and day. It's the same thing as the difference between the Jets and the Chiefs, in my opinion. So Detroit, kind of a sunken franchise until they get rid of Patricia or until they get him some help. Jaguars, beyond sunken. One of the worst teams in the NFL. Jets, Dolphins. Oh, God. Talk about sunken. Before we get to the Jets, Tua Tagovailoa was Tagovailoa. Haven't said his name in a long time. But before I get onto this game, he's been named the starter. I've been saying that the Dolphins are impossible for me to talk about until they move to Tua, because we know that Fitzpatrick is not the guy. He's just a stopgap. He's a little bit of an undervalued, like Teddy Bridgewater, who he's not the person who's going to be delivering playoff wins and Super Bowls. He's the person that's going to get you to whoever that person becomes. Let me say this about Fitzpatrick. I think Fitzpatrick is generally overrated because people think he's like, they see the beard, they see the flash, whatever. He wins games he shouldn't win. But that's about it. He's been really, really good in Miami. He's been very good for Miami. Now, he's got incredible coaching behind him, but he's been really good. He's 71% against the spread while in Miami. That is very, very good. So shout out to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm interested to see what Tua does. Last week on the show, we talked about how this is the time to play rookie quarterbacks because they don't have to worry about the crowd noise. They don't have to worry about all that stuff. So it is the moment right now to get in these rookie quarterbacks to get as much game time as possible before it gets like way, way real, right? So I love that they're moving to Tua here. It would have been easy. I'm telling you this right now. It would have been easy for the Dolphins to say, you know what, man, we're 3-3. Like, let's just keep coasting. Let's keep up with Fitzpatrick, and let's see what happens. Like, what's worst case scenario? They go, let's say, if they play Fitzpatrick, they have the Rams, Cardinals, Chargers, Broncos, Jets, Bengals, Chiefs, Patriots, Raiders, Bills. So they could probably win like 4 of those games, something like that. So worst case scenario, they go like 7-9, 8-8, Like that. Some teams would take that. But for them to make this risk and say, you know what, screw it, let's worry about the future, I love that. That tells me that this organization wants to win. This is the opposite of the Jets. The Jets would cut off their arm to be 3-3, But the Dolphins are saying, well, I ain't happy with that. The Dolphins are saying we want long-term winning. So I love that. I love that from Miami. Miami, good stuff here. I'm very excited to see how Tua looks. I think he's going to look good. I really do. I think Fitzpatrick's going to be good for Tua. Now let's talk about the Suckboy Jets. I think I said it last week. I think the NFL needs to get involved. And I think the NFL needs to get involved and take over this franchise and say, look, we're going to make some moves here to make this a more competitive franchise because right now it's kind of hurting our product. I'm not sure what the deal is with Adam Gase. I'm not sure if he's they're trying. This is when you got to look at like contracts, right? Like this might be one of those deals where if the Jets fire Gase, they have to pay him like $4 million. Like you never know what the clauses in these contracts are. So they may be saying, you know what, screw it. We're just going to let him play out his season, let him go 0-16. We're not going to pay him a cent more than he's deserved. Then we're going to fire his ass, and we're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. If you're the Jets, that don't sound too bad, right? That doesn't sound too bad at all. What else are you going to do? Let's say the Jets fire Adam Gase, and let's say they hire somebody, and let's say that coach has, or let's just say it's the offensive coordinator, whatever, or defensive coordinator, who cares, or some assistant, and let's say they win, so they have 10 games left. Let's say they win 6 of those games, and let's say this team goes 6-10. That would be the worst thing that ever happened to the Jets, and that would be incredible. You know what I mean? So I think the Jets are looking at their situation and going, well, the best thing that can happen to us is us losing every single game, getting Trevor Lawrence, firing Adam Gase, and then going from there. Now, the interesting thing about the Jets is that what I recently heard, that they are trying to trade away assets like Quinn Williams. That doesn't make any sense. If you're looking ahead and saying, okay, we could get Trevor Lawrence, why? I understand Le'Veon because it could be like a big contract and he's older and whatever. But your younger guys like Quinn Williams, and that's in Quinn. I keep saying Quinnen. I'm pretty sure it's Quinnen, but I don't want to be wrong. Quinn Williams. Yeah, I mean Quinn Williams. He's 22 years old. He's 22. Why trade him? You should be trading like all the older guys, anybody who has a fat contract. Get rid of them. You don't need them. See you later. But you don't need to be getting rid of your young guys who you need to build a core whenever Trevor Lawrence comes around. So I'm not totally sure why the Jets are doing that. But I think that the ownership group is keeping Gase around because they're looking at it like, why change? He's just giving us a fast track to the next Joe Namath. Reading chat here. Stafford should go to Cleveland. He'd be a huge upgrade. He'd be an enormous upgrade. I've said Adam Gase was the worst coach I've ever seen. I said it when he was in Miami. Tannehill was almost out of the league when coached by Gase. Now look at him, easily top 8. Yeah, I mean, like Sam Darnold, I would love for like the Cowboys are sunk because of Mike McCarthy. But if I would love if Sam Darnold was on the Rams. I think the Rams would be way better. I think Sam Darnold's way better than Jared Goff. But Darnold is just going to sit in New York and just fade away. But I would love to see if Darnold had a chance somewhere, like Cleveland. If Darnold does, see, when it comes to like quarterback stuff, like progressing, reading, doing all that, Darnold does that way better than Baker Mayfield. Darnold might not have like the arm, or he might not have some of the athletic ability, but he does the quarterback things way better. So when you have a good coach and good weapons, I think Darnold could be really good in Cleveland, and it could be better than Baker. But who knows if he'll do anything. Packers Bucks. This is a game that I saw. I mean, we saw a million miles away. The Buccaneers, first of all, they had to win this game. This was their season on the line. You talk about how a team wins. This is how Tampa Bay wins. If I would have told you that that Aaron Rodgers was going to throw the ball 35 times and Tom Brady was going to have 166 yards passing, you'd probably said, okay, that's not good for Tampa. But then you look at the rest and you look at the Aaron Rodgers completed 16 passes for 160 yards and threw 2 interceptions. This might be Aaron Rodgers' worst game of his career. And then the most important thing over here with Brady is the no picks. This is that like elite game manager stuff I'm talking about. If you are going to be run first defense, you have to do this. You can't make mistakes. Now, don't get it twisted. This is not good. But the rest of this was good. Their defense was dominant. This was the best offensive line in the NFL, getting dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the entire day. The entire day is what was happening here. Aaron Rodgers was bad. Look at these numbers. 4 carries, 34 yards for Jamal Williams is good. 5 carries for 31 yards for A.J. Dillon. Okay. Aaron Jones, 10 for 15 is terrible. The Buccaneers defense is legit. But the question is, the defense almost has to like do stuff. You know, like the defense has to flip the field or get turnovers or whatever because the offense isn't good enough on its own. And this is like a weird 38, you know, because you see 38 points, you're like, oh, well, who went nuts? You look at Tom Brady, 17-27 for 166. And it's like, well, okay, maybe this wasn't an offensive juggernaut, but this is how Tampa will win. Great game for Tampa Bay, season on the line for sure. Green Bay, this is more of them coming down to reality. Green Bay is not a 16-0 team. They're not a 15-1. They're not a 14-2. They're not a 13-3. This is way more in their wheelhouse, that 11-5, 12 wins max kind of squad. I still think Green Bay is really good, but they're not anywhere near where people had them before this game. Let's keep moving. Next up, Rams-Niners. Okay, so this, I think, with the Rams, first thing, and guys, y'all are going to notice a theme. Whenever we have these games with like the Bucs or the Niners or whoever, notice how their quarterbacks don't have picks. This is Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo is not afraid to turn the ball over. Jimmy Garoppolo, if you throw for 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, Frisco's going to be really good. You know, this is the difference. You don't have to have Patrick Mahomes. You just have to have someone who's going to protect the football. This was a systematic game from the Niners and a really, 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 really bad game from the Rams. This is also like a scheduling thing. We've talked about the Rams' schedule, how hard it is. Their travel is out of control. And if you are not factoring in the amount of travel that LA is doing, you're really missing it. I mean, think about this. They're playing in Los Angeles to start the season. Then they fly to Philadelphia, play in Philly, stay the whole week over there, play the Bills, fly back to Los Angeles, play the Giants, fly back to Washington, play the Redskins, fly back to San Francisco to play the Niners, and then they're about to play the Bears in LA. Then they have to fly to Miami. Then they have to fly to Seattle. Then they have to fly back to Tampa Bay. Then they have to fly back to Frisco. You're talking about like 7 or 8 cross-country trips in the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 cross-country trips in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks. 11 weeks, 8 cross-country trips. That is absolutely insane. These are human beings. So that's going to be a big part of that. I think travel caught up to them here. On the flip side, Jared Goff is terrible. Jared Goff at one point was like 9 for 28. This is what I'm talking about with Goff. What do I say every single week about Goff? If you let Jared Goff do what he wants to do, he will do it to you. But if you don't let him do what he wants to do, if you pressure him, just like Baker Mayfield, if you pressure him, if you force him to progress to his reads, if you force him to not be able to just play action and go to the first person, he sucks ass. You want to know how I know that? Because I watched the Super Bowl a few years ago. That's exactly what New England did. And that's what everyone's been doing to Jared Goff since then. Sean McVay, I think, is still one of the best coaches in the NFL. The Rams are winning despite Jared Goff. If the Rams had someone who was better than Jared Goff, the Rams would be really, really good. If Sean McVay would have been coaching the Dallas Cowboys for the last 3 years, they would have went to the NFC Championship game at least once. I guarantee you that. This is the difference, okay? This is the difference between people like Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield or Mitchell Trubisky or Gardner Minshew or whoever. Garoppolo and Jared Goff are being coached by two of the best play callers in the NFL. They're like two top 5 guys. And they are systematically calling plays, systematically developing the offense to hide the ineptitude of these two quarterbacks. If you gave the Rams an elite level quarterback, if you gave the Niners an elite level quarterback, these two teams would be so damn good. They are good despite these guys. Jared Goff probably deserves to be in the same conversation as Mitchell Trubisky, but he's not because Sean McVay is that damn good. So that's what I think here. As far as the Niners, they're real hurt. They're big hurt. They're going to be big hurt. They're getting some people back. I think the Niners are closer to like an 8-8 team, somewhere in there between 7 and 9 wins. As far as the Rams, they're probably generally in the same kind of area. I think the NFC West to me is like Seattle, who's really good, and then you have a bunch of like 7, 8, 9 win teams somewhere in there. They're all going to fall like that. They're going to be like Seattle, and then whoever's second is going to have 9 wins. Whoever's third is going to have 8 wins. Whoever's last is going to have 7 wins. That's how the NFC West is going to be. I think Frisco, the Rams, and the Cardinals are all the exact same. Really good coaches, really good play callers, and kind of overrated quarterbacks who have not figured out what they're doing just yet. So they're all good in their own little ways, but they're all bad in their own ways too. So the NFC West is kind of weird, kind of a weird division. But big win for the Niners for sure. Big win for Jim Garoppolo. Last night, the doubleheader, Chiefs-Bills. This was an interesting game because the Chiefs were not the Chiefs in this game. It was raining the entire time. I watched this whole game. Patrick Mahomes missed a lot of wide open throws. He missed one throw to Travis Kelce. It was like a schoolboy throw. It was probably a 15-yard post or outright route. And he just flat out missed him, and Kelce had to make an incredible catch just to even save the first down. The Bills' defense was really, to me, the issue, where we knew they couldn't stop anybody. We kind of went over this game before the game on stream. Their defense is bad. Their defense is bottom tier bad statistically. And Kansas City completely exposed that with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 26 carries, 161 yards. They never could stop the Chiefs, so they never really had a chance to come back. As far as the Bills, Josh Allen was awful in this game. 14-27, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He was real bad. And this is something I was worried about with Josh Allen before this year was in the playoff game last year, he played like the building was on fire. He was running around like with his head cut off. He never looked like he was taking a breath. He was rushing every throw. He was missing wide open people to try and make stuff happen. And he did the exact same thing in this game. He knew this was a big game. He knew this was Monday Night Football. He knew this was the Kansas City Chiefs. And he made everything so much harder than it had to be. I think the Bills are in real trouble. I think the Bills, this is the thing with the Bills. They have a shitty defense. They cannot run the football at all. And that's it. Does that sound like a winning formula to you? No. They have Josh Allen, and that is it. If Josh Allen doesn't go bananas in pajamas, this team just isn't that good. Flat out, they're not that good. As far as like limiting Kansas City to 26 points actually seems like, hey, you played pretty well, but this is more because Kansas City just ran the football. They ran for 245 yards. They ran for 5.3 yards a carry on 46 carries. So if Kansas City was fine with not taking big plays. They were just going to grind the clock out, and that was it. And that's exactly what they did. And, Patrick Mahomes didn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. He was good. He was like an elite level game manager in this game. But this is more about the Bills not being able to do anything. If the Bills could have stopped the running attack and forced Kansas City to throw the football, they might have had a chance here because Kansas City was not throwing the ball well in the rain. But this is the Bills just proving who they are. The Bills are not ready to take that next step until Josh Allen takes that next step. Josh Allen can be electric. He can be a really good quarterback, but he can also be where he's just not ready. He can also be where he's not ready for that big moment. He can also be where he's not ready for these huge games. I'm watching Buffalo to see two things moving forward. One, the defense. Is the defense really that bad, or is there some kind of schematic problem? Two, will Josh Allen relax? Will he settle into his role and who he is? Or is this what we can look for with him, where he's kind of like, he just does not do well in big games, primetime games, high-stakes situations? That could be the case. Players are like that, So that's what I'm looking for with the Bills. Chiefs, hey, man, this is a couple. Look, the Chiefs, they're 5-1, but the Chargers took them to overtime. The Raiders beat their ass. The Patriots, they caught them without half the Patriots team. The Bills, the Bills lost by 9, but this was not a good game by the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not looked great. They haven't looked like the Chiefs. So is this to where the Chiefs, this is kind of who they are, or are the Chiefs yet to reach their next level? If they are yet to reach their next level and they're 5-1, that's really scary. They play some scrubs moving forward. I mean, you're talking about the Broncos. Divisional game could be tough. In Mile High, can't be taken lightly, but it's still not the best team in the world. Jets, I mean, LMAO, it might be the biggest line in NFL history. Panthers, average team. Raiders, the Raiders, they beat the Chiefs, but again, we're looking like slightly above average. Buccaneers, that'll be a big test. And then Broncos, Dolphins, Falcons, Saints are in there. So the Chiefs, if the Chiefs are playing pedestrian to their standards, but are 5-1, this is a team that could easily be 14-2 going into the playoffs. Next and final game of the show, the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. This game right here, if you're going to watch stuff like this, if you're going to watch degrading, disrespectful, just dominant things like this on TV or on the internet, usually it costs you about $19.99 a month, and you have to go through a private browser to even find these kind of videos. This is something that Mel Gibson wouldn't have even produced. This was one of the most disrespectful, disgusting displays of humanity I've ever seen in my entire life. This was. If I was Jerry Jones, let me say this first. I honestly believe if I was the GM of the Dallas Cowboys, I could have the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship game within the next 5 years. This is the most talented roster that has the most underperforming results, maybe in the history of sports. Let's look at the rest of the NFC East. Let's just take the NFC East. How many teams in the NFC East, besides the Cowboys, would CeeDee Lamb be the best player on the team? Probably all three. The only other player I can think of is like Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz might be considered a better player than CeeDee Lamb as far as like the team or whatever. But he's definitely the best player on the Redskins. He's definitely the best player on the Giants. And he's the second receiver. How many players on those teams is Ezekiel Elliott the best player on the team? Again, the only other player is Carson Wentz. How many teams is Amari Cooper the best player on the team? Again, it's just Carson Wentz. So you're looking at this team, and then let's just say let's throw Dak Prescott in there. Dak Prescott is probably the best player in the division. They have easily, probably the 4 best players in the entire division. And this team right here is like, what, 7 wins every year, 8 wins every year for the past 5 years. They haven't been to a conference championship game since 1995. Bruv, the white Power Ranger was still the Green Ranger in 1995. All right, the Cowboys somehow, the Cowboys somehow are like, they still live in this, like, the Dallas Cowboys, and I fall for this, honestly, because I like the Dallas Cowboys, like, who they are. Every time they're on prime time, I like to watch them. I root for the Cowboys, I would say. You know, like, I'm not like a Cowboys fan, but I like to see them do good. They're like the Yankees. I feel like the NFL is better when the Cowboys are good. Well, the Cowboys have not been good. You know, the Cowboys have been exciting. Like Tony Romo had some exciting teams. Dak has had some exciting teams, but they're exciting to the first round of the playoffs, and that's about it. You know, I mean, like, for what the Cowboys are, for what Jerry Jones is, for Jerry World, for the players they have, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how little they've achieved. Now let's talk about Mike McCarthy. If I was Jerry Jones, I would have walked onto the field and fired Mike McCarthy in front of God and everybody on Monday Night Football the second Mike McCarthy chose to kick a 58-yard field goal down 28-3 at home. There is no explaining that. Now, this is the same guy who in the same season decided to not kick a field goal to tie the game in LA with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was like a 35-yard field goal. So what that shows me is that Mike McCarthy has totally lost the feel of the game. And it happens. Have y'all ever played like poker or blackjack or even gambling or anything like that where you like lose the feel for the game? It can happen in video games too, where you just like lose the feel. You don't have the feel for the game. You're just mashing buttons, or you're just like randomly betting on numbers. You have no feel. You have no idea. You don't have like a foundation. You don't have like a belief system you can lean on, where it's like, you know, like in FIFA or something, you kind of know the passes. You kind of know what you're trying to do. It feels like Mike McCarthy is just banging the controller, or just randomly betting on things, just randomly doing stuff and hoping for good results. He's completely lost the feel of the game. You do not. I mean, you do not have. You're not the same coach within 6 weeks, and you decide to kick a 58-yard field goal down 25 at home, and then you're the same guy who decides not to kick a field goal to tie a game on the road in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left when the field goal is like a 40-yard field goal. Those two don't add up. So it's obvious that McCarthy's completely lost. They've lost the locker room. I'll tell you this. This is going to get worse. This is going to get worse way before it gets better, because now you're starting to hear Cowboys players come out and say that they don't trust their coaches. You got to fire these guys. I know Jerry probably doesn't want to do that, but you have to fire McCarthy. You have to get rid of Mike Nolan. You have to get rid of these guys, and you have to just try and, at this point, is Dallas, you can't tank. Like, Dallas is one of those franchises where, just like the Lakers or something like that, you can't tank because you're the Dallas Cowboys. Like the Jets, who cares? If Dallas tanks, it's a much bigger deal. Dallas, they're in some real trouble. One of the things I would have done with Dallas a few years ago is I would have not paid Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think there's really any running back that Kamara is like one, Christian McCaffrey's one. There's a couple running backs who I'd pay, but besides them, I just let them walk. The difference, we've done this before on the show, the difference between the 5th ranked running back and the 14th ranked running back is pretty much nothing. So I would have much rather paid Dak than Zeke. And Zeke isn't the whole reason they lost this game, but he's a big part of it. If you lose Dak Prescott and you have Ezekiel Elliott, you have to have Ezekiel Elliott go off. Just like Alvin Kamara. They lost Michael Thomas. Drew Brees has not been, or wasn't good at the beginning of the year. So what happened? Alvin Kamara went crazy. And that's what you need from a big player. You don't need Dak Prescott to go down and then Dak Prescott still be the leader of the team. They said that when he visited the team this week, it was like a huge boom for the team, and he's still leading basically from a hospital bed. And then Zeke Elliott, when the team is on his shoulders, has 12 carries for 49 yards and 2 fumbles. That ain't it. All right? Like, that ain't the move. That ain't it. I'm honestly surprised Dallas hasn't fired everybody. Like, Jerry is not the kind of guy to get embarrassed like this on prime time and take it lightly. He's got to do something. Andy Dalton was really, really, really bad in this game, but it's Andy Dalton. I was talking to my dad about this before the game. He was asking what I thought about Andy Dalton, and I told him Andy Dalton's capable, but there is a reason Andy Dalton is not a starting quarterback in the NFL, right? People, this is something that I think people get really mixed up, and this is like a narrative thing. The idea of like a really good backup quarterback. Backup quarterbacks are, you can get a capable one, but unless you draft one, if you like sign a backup quarterback or if you like get one from free agency, they're only so good because if they were actually good, they'd be starting in the NFL. Does that make sense? Think about how bad some of these starting quarterbacks are, like Gardner Minshew, Dwayne Haskins, guys like that. Andy Dalton's worse than them in the eyes of these GMs, in the eyes of these owners, because he's not on a team. So whenever you hear in the mass media, the mass sports media, all the people that wish they could do what I do on a daily basis, they were telling you Andy Dalton is the same as Dak Prescott. They were telling you that the Dallas offense will look the same with Andy Dalton as it does with Dak Prescott. They were telling you that Andy Dalton is probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL, so this team will be fine. Well, lo and behold, that's not true. That's not true at all, right? That's not even close. Andy Dalton sucks. You want to know why Andy Dalton sucks? Because he's a backup quarterback. Daniel Jones needs to come before. Daniel Jones is in the same. That's how bad Daniel Jones is. You know you're bad when you're not even on my list of bad quarterbacks because you're so irrelevant. But yeah, Daniel Jones is on that list. They're all the same. But yeah, Daniel Jones is bad for sure. He's bad. He's real bad. But there's a bunch of them. I mean, it's not just them. But those are just the ones that I immediately thought of. But that might be even worse when you're Daniel Jones, when you're not even getting brought up because you're so. I just forget you even exist as a human being. You don't want to be forgotten that you even exist. I'll tell you that much. But Haskins is awful. But Dalton sucks. Like let's not get it twisted. You know he's terrible. But there's a lot of other issues with Dallas. Dallas has to get rid of McCarthy. They have to get rid of Nolan. They have to get rid of these guys. You don't lose a game like this at home and survive. You don't lose a game like this at home and keep your job. And that's just it. Dallas, if it was me, I'll tell you what I would do. After this season, I'd walk my ass right into Oklahoma University. I'd walk right into the football offices. I'd sit down. And I'd say, all right, here's a check. Here you go. You just tell me. You tell me how much you want to get paid. And then I'd go from there. That's it. I'd be walking around with a blank check offering all these guys. Lincoln Riley. I'd be offering Sean McVay, Sean Payton, all these guys, even in different teams. I'd say, look, how much do you want to make? Where's your favorite vacation spot? Where's your Kyle Shanahan? I'd say, where is your favorite spot? Do you ever wish you could vacation somewhere? Do you ever wish you could own an island? Here's a blank check. Sign it. That's the first step for Dallas is to figure out who the hell is the head coach. I mean, you got to think. Dallas has been maligned with Jason Garrett. They've been maligned now with Mike McCarthy for how long, right? Like, it's been way too long where they haven't had any kind of coach. So I think it is time for Dallas to do that first and then to move forward. The next step then would be to decide Dak Prescott. Is Dak hurt? If he's too hurt after his injury, if you don't think he can be back to the player who he is, get rid of him. Ezekiel Elliott, I'd get rid of him as soon as I could anyways. I'd either trade him, cut him, doesn't matter, get rid of him, move on from him too. Then you either make a move for Trevor Lawrence, you either go find somebody else, or wait a few years and draft whoever the top guy is. That's the move. They need to make like a Ricky Williams style trade to get their franchise quarterback. It's time for that. I'll tell you this. This is like Madden talk. I don't know if Dallas could put together the package, and it doesn't matter because they have Mike McCarthy, so they got to get a coach first. But let's just say you get Lincoln Riley. Let's say you called Cincinnati and said, hey, Cincy, what do you want for Joe Burrow? You tell me. We'll give you a Ricky Williams style ransom. We'll give you first round picks for the next 3 or 4 years. We'll give you Ezekiel Elliott. We'll give you whatever. Who cares? Who gives a shit? You just start calling people. The Dallas Cowboys have to get desperate at that level. They can't just keep doing this where it's Mike McCarthy and whoever, the Jason Garretts and all that stuff. And not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, the Joe Burrow thing might not happen, but you call all those teams. You call every team, and you say, what do you want? What's the possibilities? What are we looking at? And you just start making phone calls, and that's it. And you just get desperate. You're like, you're just calling the world. You're buying the unlimited monthly pass for Tinder, and you're swiping right on every single person just to see who's interested. And then you go from there. That's what Dallas needs to do. But I mean, this season sunk because Dalton's not the answer. Ezekiel Elliott. When's the last time he was good? I mean, when's the last time Zeke was actually good? Not pretty. Not pretty. As far as Arizona, look, it's hard for me to shit on Arizona because of this, how dominant they were. But I'll tell you what's not good. 9 for 24 for 188 yards when one of the passes was a 80-yard pass. I mean, think about Kyler Murray's night, okay? He had a 80-yard pass to Christian Kirk and a 60-yard pass to DeAndre Hopkins. So that's 140 yards. So that means he was 7 for 22. He was 7 for 22 for 40 yards. 7 for 22 for 40 yards besides 2 passes. That is disgusting. That is so gross. I don't care if they were up 50-0. All I know is 7 for 22 for 40 yards is really, really, really bad. Kyler Murray is another one who I think he fits the same bill as Jimmy Garoppolo and fits the same bill as Jared Goff, where I think that Cliff Kingsbury is... I think that Cliff Kingsbury is hiding Kyler Murray's ineptitudes. What Kyler Murray did do really well this game is run. And I watched a lot of this game. I watched pretty much the entire game until about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The last thing I saw was DeAndre Hopkins' 60-yard pass. And then I said, see you later. But when you look at Kyler Murray's career, the thing that sticks out to me is how it seems like he is not great at throwing the deep ball for how strong his arm is. He averages, I think for his career, his average is like around 6 for as far as his completions. And that's, let's see, right now it's 7. So his first year was 6.9. So this is still below, 7's still below where it should be. 7's still below the league average. So this is one of those guys who, it seems like when you watch him, it seems like that he's just not tuned in to uncorking it. And I think he even mentioned it in this game. I watched his postseason interview, or his post-game interview, and he talked about how he was missing receivers a lot, and he was kind of inaccurate. And I noticed that. And that's something that is going to plague him, I think, for as far as... And you wonder if, like, his height, you wonder if it's because he can't see over the line, or if he can't see, or you never know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not on the field. But I do think that Kyler Murray is being kind of not coddled, but he is looking better than he actually is because of Cliff Kingsbury. So on one hand, that's good. That's the same thing that McVay is doing. That's the same thing that Kyle Shanahan's doing. But it's also like, well, they can only be so good because the quarterback is going to get found out, just like Jared Goff in the Super Bowl, and then Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. So that's something to watch. I'll give y'all some homework watching Arizona games. And I think if we had a video of all 24 of these passes, there is a lot that he missed, just flat out, just missed the receivers, threw these uncatchable balls, spiked it in the dirt. I'm not, like I said, I watched almost all these throws. So that's something to look for moving forward with Arizona. Well, something with Arizona that I was impressed with was their defense in this game. Now it's not hard to look good defensively whenever you're playing against this ineptitude that is the Dallas Cowboys, but I was really impressed with their defense. So that's something that Arizona, this is not like normal, right? Kenyon Drake averaging 8.2 yards a carry. But if their defense can show up and they're not just a run and gun, shoot offense kind of thing, Arizona could be a really dangerous team moving forward if Kyler Murray can develop a little bit. I am impressed with him running. I am impressed with like how he runs because he's so small, but he's really, really good about like getting out of bounds, sliding, all of that. So he's a really I guess you could say he's a really aware runner. Like some runners just run. Like Josh Allen just runs. You know, when Josh Allen's running, he's going to take hits. He's going to run into defenders. I've seen other like primarily running quarterbacks who have a real hard time sliding or like feeling contact. But Kyler Murray does a really good job of that. And maybe that's because he's so small. Maybe because he's been so small his whole career, he's had to develop that. But I do like that part of his game a lot, is the way he runs. It would be disgusting if we didn't know that Kyler could do it. I mean, I'd be concerned if I was the GM or if I was the personnel, whoever, and I saw, if I saw this game and I was watching this tape and I saw some of these throws, I'd be questioning. I'd have some questions for sure. But I mean, look, if you're Arizona, you can't come out of this game saying anything bad. This is a tough game. 3 games on the road. And to go to Dallas Monday Night Football and to play this well. I mean, look at these road games. Yeah, they lost to Carolina, but the Jets are the Jets. But then they turn around and beat the hell out of the Cowboys. So really good stuff here. They already took care of the Niners. So this game against Seattle, like this game here, if Arizona can beat Seattle in Arizona, the NFC West, it's on. It's freaking on. Because all of a sudden, Arizona's got huge wins against Frisco and against Seattle. So this is going to be a huge game right here next week. This is going to be telling for both teams, for sure. For sure. That's the games. Those are the games, man. Another good preview show. But yeah, I think right now, if you go to my Twitter, you can see where we were 100% correct in our analysis moving forward. But I think we have the direction. I think we have the direction of a lot of these teams correct. I think we know what they're trying to do, what they're doing, what they can do, and so that feels good that we're directionally, I think, right in a lot of this analysis. And I would think that as listeners, as people who tune into the podcast, who tune into the live show, who listen to this right here, it'd be one thing if I was telling you stuff that was just completely wrong. But let's go to my Twitter right now. Let's just listen. Let's just listen to me just being on a whole nother level. I mean, let's just listen to this. Over under 55. Kind of like the under. Because if this is me talking about Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Big game from the defense here. Over under 55. Kind of like the under. Because if Tampa Bay wins this game, they're going to need to stop Green Bay. So I like Tampa Bay here to win outright. I like Tampa Bay here to kind of right the ship. No pun intended with the pirate ship. They have to win. Max motivation. Getting points at home, better defense. I like all of that. Big game from. That's 100% correct. 100% correct. 100% nailed it. Let's see what I had to say about Baker Mayfield. Apparently, Baker was hurt last week. Like he was wincing. He was kind of beat up. He got hit while he was throwing. I don't know if it's like an intercostal strain. It might just be a bruise. Who the hell knows? All I know is that Pittsburgh comes after the quarterback pretty good. So if Pittsburgh's hitting Baker and he's just, let's just say he's sore, and that takes him down a little bit, that's a big deal. You know, apparently, I mean, there you go. Like, you know, this is high-level analysis y'all are getting. High-level, predictions and what have you. So thank y'all for tuning in. Appreciate that very much. Hope y'all are enjoying it. Again, later this week, I have to go to town for a wedding. Not my wedding. Yeah, y'all know I'm married to the game. Not my wedding. So the preview show... I don't think we'll do a preview show this week. If we do, it'll be like late Saturday. Like it'll probably be like just a podcast thing, but hopefully we can get to some of that. So that's the football show. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Another week of the NFL with James Skrmetta.